Go ahead and put that first one up, Tessa. There we go. People have been asking me, what are you going to preach about? Your last day. Life together. What else would I talk about? That's what I do. There it is. They committed themselves to the teaching of the apostles, the life together, the common meal, and the prayers. 13 years of life together I've gotten to share with you guys. And it's been awesome. It has been so much fun most of the time. I've gotten to see a lot of really cool things. Most youth pastors don't get the chance to go 13 years with people. They don't get the chance to see some of the things I've seen. To have students that you've known since before they were in the youth group at times grow up and graduate and start doing things like going to grad school and hopefully finishing soon. He was in the first service, so I don't have to plug that one as hard for his mom. They grow up, they get married, they get pregnant, they do crazy things that make you feel old. But it's awesome because you get to see so much in a student's life. You get to see them grow to such a point. I've been here long enough that there are now students in the youth group that I remember when they were born. We've been remembering some of the kids talking with, like, oh, I remember when you came, I remember when this, and I'm like, I remember when you were a fetus. You're welcome, Audrey. It's really cool to have been here that long and to experience all those things, but it also makes it that much harder to say goodbye. There are so many things that I will remember and cherish, but that makes it hard to leave those things at the same time. And as I thought about that, I was drawn to Acts chapter 20, where we'll spend a little bit of time this morning. And this is where Paul is kind of on his farewell tour. He knows it's time to head back to Jerusalem. He feels God calling him there, even though he knows that some hard stuff is waiting for him there. We'll skip over the part where he puts people to sleep by talking all day and late into the nights. We'll just jump over Eutychus there, as much fun as that would be. And as easily as I could get up here and go to town. We jokingly blame our children's nonstop talking on their grandma, who's not biologically related to them at all. But the secret in our house is that they get that from me. It's not a secret in our house, but to some people it is. And Joni's down here like, it's true, he never shuts up. He doesn't. But Paul's on this farewell tour, and he gets to a point where he could go to Ephesus. But Ephesus means so much to him that it says this in verses 16 and 17, that next little part, that he decides to sail past Ephesus to avoid spending time in the province of Asia, for he was in a hurry to reach Jerusalem, and if possible, by the day of Pentecost. But from Miletus, Paul sent to Ephesus for the elders of the church. He doesn't want to go there because he knows if he shows up, if he goes there and actually present in Ephesus with all those people, he's not just going to be able to move on right away. He's going to have to stay with them for a while. I joked in the first service, this is what it's like when Pastor Brad shows up at the door of your office with just a simple question that should take like 10 seconds. You better clear the next half hour. Okay, that's how it is. Brad's going to stop in. Especially in my office. I got all the comfy furniture. It's all broken in after 13 years. There's no cushion left there. You're just sinking into everything. Paul knew if he goes to Ephesus, I'm going to have to stay here. I cannot just casually, quickly say goodbye to these people and move on. So he doesn't go there. But he can't pass them completely, and he calls for them to come see him along his way. And he spends some time with them, and he reminds them of all the things that have happened with them. All the things they've shared, all the things God has done among them and taught them. And then it says this at the end of chapter 20. That when he'd said all this, he knelt down with all of them and prayed. And they all wept as they embraced him and kissed him. What grieved them most was his statement that they would never see his face again. And then they accompanied him to the ship. And this is in 21. After we had torn ourselves away from them, we put out to sea. It was so hard to leave them, even in that little moment. Not all of them, just the leaders had come. It was so hard to pull himself away. He didn't want to go away, but he knew that's what God wanted. And that's what God calls all of us to at times, to put ourselves behind and follow what he asks of us. I can relate to that. I can relate to this idea of dying to self and the dreams you have for yourself and doing what God wants. See, I didn't want this job. I didn't want to be a youth pastor. My dad had been a youth pastor, and it was fun being the youth minister's kid. It was great. There were times where I kind of thought about it and then, probably not. I wanted to teach and coach, and so I came to school, did that for 2 years. Was preparing for that, and got totally turned upside down by God on some things in an awesome way, and felt like I had a lot of things I could share with kids back home, and I was just burnt out on school. I was done. God had torn a lot of things down in a good way and brought me to a new place, and so I took a semester off and went home, got to live at home. Nothing like living alone away from your parents for 2 years and then moving back into the house, by the way. Not a suggestion. Went home, though, for a whole semester, and I was going to substitute teach and coach and had some stuff to share with the kids at church that I was going to do. And, I like substitute teaching. I like bigger kids, and I mostly ended up with little kids for substitute teaching, which, I was hoping for like mid-schoolers, high schoolers. I got 1 day of mid-school subbing, and it was in band. No, it doesn't work. Mostly I ended up in like kindergarten and second grade classes, and like no one comes above my knee. And I'm scared that I'm going to step on one of them. Because little kids in math scare me. They do. Everybody thinks I'm crazy for working with teenagers. I'm like, I can see them. I know, always know where they are, right? It's not hard. Little kids, I don't know where they are. I lose them. I only have 2, and I still lose them. But that's usually on purpose. But I liked subbing. It was okay. I liked the whole routine of getting up, going to school. That was all right. I was still familiar with that. Loved coaching. Coached freshman football. Helped out with the varsity and all that stuff. And then coached some basketball when I was done. It was great. Loved it. All the good time, none of the running. It was awesome. I get to make them run. No problem. And then I worked with kids at the church, and that was a lesson in what it means when Jesus says that a prophet has no honor in his hometown. Because they were awful. I could not stand working with them. It was a pain. They didn't listen to anything. We'd try and watch a movie together so I could show them some cool thing that Jesus said in this movie, and they'd get in a candy fight and not watch the movie. We're in the middle of the climactic scene, and there's a kid just flipping a table over and hunkering down behind it, chucking Jolly Ranchers over his head. And I'm like, what is wrong with you guys? I hated it. Awful. So I came back to school after that semester off, knowing in my own head, here's what I'm supposed to do. Here's where we're headed. Teaching, coaching, this is it. I loved it. This is going to be awesome. I'd mostly coached freshman football, primarily, and I had 2.5 years left of school to get out so I could be back when those kids were seniors. And I remember being so excited for that. Loved my little freshmen. I was like, all right, I'll be back, guys. When you're seniors, I will be here. It was good to go. So I came back to school, focused, knew what I was doing. I thought, First day, a couple of days of class, get settled in. By Wednesday, I'm like, all right, I got to go be an adult. I got to go get a job and stuff, so I can't just slack off and go to school for 4 hours a day and, play ping pong the rest. As it turned out, I just played ping pong for the first 4 hours and didn't go to class, but that's a different story. And I'm driving home. I'm driving home to go start the search, figure out what I'm going to do for a nice part-time job, and I get a call from a friend of mine who had just moved to Albuquerque a few months before and started coming to Del Norte Baptist Church. She's like, hey, we're looking for someone to work with our students, and someone at the BSU gave the church your name, which I silently cursed under my breath. Who at the BSU did that? Ted. And so she keeps talking. She's like, so I was wondering, it's okay if I give, my pastor your phone number, your contact, and he can call you and set something up. You guys could talk about it. And I'm like, no way. The only thing that came out of my mouth, sure. He calls me 30 minutes later. Same thing happens. I'm like, I think my body is physically moving, saying, no, yeah, we can do that. I came and met with Bob and Kevin a couple times. I have no idea what I said to them. Not a clue, but apparently it must have been good because they wanted me to come. Hung out with some students a few times, and about a month later, came and shared my testimony at a business meeting. Still not wanting to do this, but somehow my feet and my mouth just took over, and I couldn't stop myself. Ended up being hired to work part-time here while I kept going to school, and didn't want to. Convinced myself that, okay, it's just a part-time thing to get me through school. I have to have some job. And I can pull this off. Tomorrow will mark the first day in my entire life where I'm not either the youth pastor, the youth, or the son of the youth pastor. That's all there's been. That's all there's been. We have Peter Pan syndrome in our family. We don't like to grow up. We want to stay there. So it was just going to be a part-time job. I could handle that. I can throw some all-nighters together and, play some music. We'll be fine. And then summer hit. I got to hang out with students even more. No school. Hey, this is kind of nice. Kind of like this. Went back to school in the fall and took my first education class, Communication for Teachers, and discovered in that class that I had no desire to teach. Not history anyway. We had to read this book called Courage to Teach, and it talked about how you should teach from the things that are within your heart, that when you connect to it, your students will connect better to it. Man, that's good. I don't care if they know about George Washington, though, or Abraham Lincoln, or any of those things. I mean, we've had some students that had some very, very interesting historical ideas, like that there was a second civil war with Africa. We kept trying to tell him that it's not possible to have a civil war with another country, and that we've only had one of those, but, didn't quite sink in on some kids. But I had no desire to teach those things. I mean, I could. It'd be okay. I'd enjoy it okay, but it wasn't where my heart was. It wasn't what drove me. It wasn't my passion. I wanted kids to know about Jesus, though. I wanted kids to understand things like life together, even though we hadn't come up with that phrase yet. That's what we were doing the whole time. That was where my heart lied, and so gave it up. Was just a history major, which things you can do with a history degree, nothing. Nothing. You can go to school longer to learn to do something else, but with the history itself, you can do nothing. You can't even teach with just that. Right, Rochelle? And so I gave up that dream. This dream I had had in my head of coaching and going back and seeing my freshmen and seniors and all that stuff, I gave it up. Followed something new God had for me. And it was awesome. God kept working and kept growing, kept doing cool things with our students, and I just fell in love with it. Fell absolutely in love with it. And God gave me a new dream. I'm going to be the oldest youth pastor ever. Which, according to some students, I am. Because I'm the oldest person ever. I'm like 1,075 today. I forget the exact math on today's date. But that was it. I was ready. I was going to be like the longest tenured youth pastor. They were just like going to, the building was going to fall down around me, but I was still going to be the youth pastor here. It's okay. I was going to be here forever. It was a great dream. And a few months ago, God started taking that dream away. About a year and a half ago, there had been some ads in the Baptist Mexican, which I used to have to keep up with really good. I always made sure to read the Baptist Mexican, because when your father-in-law's the editor, you want to know what he said in the paper, just in case he talked about you, which he usually just talked about the grandkids, but I had to know that too. Wanted to make sure I knew that. So we perused through there and happened to notice one day Calvary Baptist Church in Roswell. That's down the street from where Joni's grandparents live. That's where they lived for years, where my father-in-law grew up. It's right down the street from the church we're now going to. But it kind of caught my attention. Just caught my eye. Jokingly, I'd say stuff to Joni like, hey, Calvary's looking. She's like, nope, not happening. No. Ad went away. Didn't really, nothing happened. But it stayed back there. Wouldn't leave the back of my mind. Just wouldn't go away. And last fall, after a particularly fun day of student ministry, where I tend to make those jokes and come home and be like, let's go, let's move. Depending on the level, it's like, we could find some church somewhere, or we could go, I could go play a character at Disneyland. I mean, it varies how bad the day is, how far away I want to get. I'll pick up trash at Disneyland some days. That's fine with me. I'm at Disneyland. How bad could it be? But after one of those particularly rough days, I kind of made a comment about it. And Joni didn't say no right away. There was a pause. And from that pause, we started talking, we started praying about maybe God is telling us to do this. And we started meeting with them. We sent a resume, which, as Joni reminds me all the time, they should have just thrown away because what's on there? You have no education. Remember, all you have is a history degree. You've been Yeah, you've been at a church a long time. That kind of longevity is good, but you've been the youth pastor at one church. In order to have more than one line under work experience, I have to put like odd jobs from college. Like summer jobs from high school are still on my resume because there's not a lot of work experience there when you started a job when you're 21 and stay till you're 34. Just doesn't look that good. One job, that's all I've ever had. There's no reason they should want to talk to me more, but they did. They called us up, we talked a few times, they set up a Skype interview, and during that Skype interview, they used the word family so many times that we lost track. And we thought, man, God is really doing something here. Maybe God is really bringing this together. And every time we talked to him last fall, it'd be like, we've got narrowed down to 4 people. Oh, it's down to 3. Randomly one week, yeah, there's just 2 of you. Oh, okay. Kept getting small. I kept going, and I'm one of them? Are you sure? So all of a sudden, it was just me. They were just talking to me. And it was the only church we were talking to. This wasn't a, man, we got to get out of here moment. This was a, God will not let me stop thinking about this. I don't want to think about this. I like my job. I have it easy. I'm Judy's favorite, okay? Ask the rest of the staff. I have it easy. I am the chosen one. I got a good gig. It's awesome. I got this new pastor. He's crazy, but man, he loves students, and it's fun. And we have an awesome staff. Staff meetings go long because we're just down there messing around, by the way. If you ever call and like, oh, they're still in staff meeting, I'm revealing secrets today. We're down there having a good old time most of the time. I mean, we're playing some stuff. Don't get me wrong. We're working. But it's not really work. It's fun. But God just kept bringing this thing up. And here we are. 13 years later, and God's finally given me a new dream again. And this time, I've been a little more willing. First time around, there was nothing but kicking and screaming coming inside. This time I keep going, well, you did this before, God. Is this you again? Yeah. The peace that Joni and I have had during this process has been amazing because they have a weird process for how they call a pastor. They just did some stuff a little differently than I had ever seen before. They used a private investigator to do all the background work. That's a little nerve-wracking to have a private investigator call you, tell you he's going to be checking you out, calling all your references. Then you think about who you put on the reference list, and you wonder if you really want him talking to some of those people. Brad. But it's been an awesome time. And one of the things, like I said, that makes it hard is because of how much life we've shared together, how much of a family you guys are to us. I've never had anything but church family. I get people claustrophobia at holidays with Joni's family because I'm used to 3. I'm an only child. There's only supposed to be me and the parents. We don't even let the dog in the room for special events. He stays outside. Just the 3 of us. Now there's like 20 of us. Overwhelms me sometimes. I'm used to church family. That's all I've ever had. Most families have those people that you don't talk about that member of the family that much. In my family, we were those people that nobody else talked about, so we never saw any of them. And if you've met my dad, you know why. That's us. So I've grown up with church family, and that's what makes it so hard to go. That's what made it so hard for Paul to say goodbye to these people. But just like Paul did, he reminds them of things that they've shared together. And so this morning, real quick, I just want to remind you of some of the things that we are called as a family to do for each other, things that I've seen this church do over and over again. So go ahead with that next slide, Tessa. We're called to be devoted to one another. This church has gone through some stuff over the years. And even stuff that I wasn't here for, I've heard a lot about. And yet, so many of you have stuck together. You've been devoted to one another. You've been a family, even through the midst of those hard times. I grew up with a great church family as a kid and thought I knew, and did know a lot about what it meant to be church family, but my depth of knowledge has grown so much because of you. I've learned so much more about what it means to be a church family here. Go to that next one. Serve one another, Paul tells us in Galatians. I tried to write down the different ways that I've seen people serve each other. I stopped after like a page and a half and gave up because I'm like, that's too many. I'm not reading this. We really will be here for the Eutychus sermon and people will fall asleep. It's not going to happen. I'm just blown away by the ways that people serve each other in this church. It's amazing. Go ahead. Carry each other's burdens. When somebody in this church hurts, so many of you hurt along with them. And when they rejoice, you rejoice along with them. That's what it means to be a family, is that when those things come up, you guys just help pick it up. You don't say, good luck with that. We'll pray for you, and just say nice platitudes. You guys step in and you help carry those burdens. You've carried mine and my family's burdens before, and we've had the privilege of getting to carry some of yours. Be patient and bear with one another. Some of y'all need this more than others. Go ahead. Bear with each other and forgive each other. Whenever we go on trips, mission trips especially, we throw out some rules, and one of the rules we talk about with the kids is treat each other like family while we're here. And that has a good side and a bad side. I told you I'm an only child. I live with siblings in my house now, these 2 children of mine. Whose idea it was to have 2, I still don't know. Like, I text my parents all the time, thank you for not giving me a sibling. Thank you so much. Because part of being family means you're going to fight. You're going to get on each other's nerves. You're going to hurt each other at times. That's just how it is. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And so as church family, our job is to forgive each other when those times come, to move past it, to work through it. Remember that we're family and that there's something bigger than our own hurt feelings at that point. Go ahead. Encourage one another. Build each other up. I cannot remember how many times that I was having a rough day, a rough week, a rough month, and some note would show up in the office. Some person would catch me in the hallway and just say something they probably thought was a little thing. And it was huge. It was such an encouragement. The last couple of weeks with cards and notes that you guys have sent have been such a huge encouragement for us. I might not show it to most people. I'm a little nervous. I have to go be a senior pastor. I have to be a grown-up. I have to adult. Because adult is now a verb. Just ask our students. They get tired. They have to adult today. And I'm like, I have to adult all the time now. It's a little nervous. But you guys have been such an encouragement for us as we've started to make this transition and started sharing with you guys about it. Thank you. Continue to do that. You guys have been awesome, and continue to encourage and build each other up, build up this staff. They're going to need it because there's all kinds of things that they're going to have to put up with doing that mostly involving computers. Students will be fine. Go ahead to the next one. Pray for each other. When I first came, the first couple months, we didn't have any Wednesday night stuff for students, and so I went to prayer meeting and hung out with the adults, and I still remember the first thing on that prayer line was the youth of DNBC, because that has always been true. And that's something we've constantly reminded students of, that like, you get prayed for by this church. You matter to this church. Like, no, they might not always, they're a little intimidated. Students are scary to most people. They might not all come tell you how much you mean to them, but they pray for you guys. They give so you guys can do these things. They take care of you. Continue to do that. Continue to pray for our students. Some of them really, really, really need it. The rest just really, really need it. But thank you for those prayers. Thank you for all of you that have talked about praying for us as we go. We need those. Calvary needs those. They're about to get me as a pastor, and they don't fully know what they're in for. So thank you for that. And then this last one in Peter. Above all, love each other deeply. Not just as casual, like, yeah, we go to the same church. Love each other deeply. Your family. Act like it. Love like it. Hold each other up. If you do this, all those other things become a whole lot easier. All those other things, which only was just the tip of the iceberg for things that God's word tells us to do for each other, they'll all fall into place if you're loving each other deeply, like Peter tells us here. If you act that way, bearing with one another, carrying each other's burdens, praying for each other, those don't just become easier, they become natural. They just become the way you do it. That it's not even second thought because you care for those people so much. Love each other deeply. We are so excited for our new adventure, but we are also so sad that we have to leave this family. It has meant so much to be here for all these years. It has been awesome. It's been amazing. I'm trying not to look in certain places so I don't cry too. So if I feel like I'm just staring at the wall back there, it's because I am. But it's been great. And as we go, we're not just abandoning some family. We're not leaving you. We're being sent by you. And we just get to make the family bigger now. I have taken students to meet some of our infamous family members at times, Aunt Tammy, Aunt Natalie, some other people. I'm not related to any of them. I told you, I have no family. I only have church family. And now you guys get to be that too. That though we don't live here with you, though we don't see you every day, every week, that you guys are still family. This last verse here from Thessalonians is my prayer for you guys. That the Lord make your love increase and overflow for each other and for everyone else, just as ours does for you. It has been an absolute privilege to get to be the youth pastor of this church for the last 13 years. And it is definitely letting go of some things, dying to self a little bit, because it's not something I was just dying to do. Trust me, I made fun of all my youth pastor friends that moved on and grew up before me. I didn't want to do that. No, I'm sticking with this. But God had other ideas. God had bigger ideas, bigger plans for me and for you. And I can't wait to see what he's going to do. If you're here this morning and this whole idea of family just sounds crazy, you're like, what is this guy talking about? And if you're visiting with us this morning, man, you walked into the farewell from the youth pastor. Sorry. But this is a great family. And we would love to have you join this family. Brad, I told the first service, I'll tell you guys, he'll be doing his little fat man happy dance all day today and tomorrow. He's already doing it from the families we had joining the first service. But this is a great family to be a part of. And it only has one thing in common. There's not this great, we do everything. No, we have Jesus in common and that's it. That's right. There's so many different personalities, so many different things in this room, in this family. And that's what makes it awesome, is that Jesus brings all those things together and makes us one. That we set all those other things aside because of him. And that is the driving force of what brings us together. That's what allows us to have life together with each other. I would love for you to come join this family. Even as I'm leaving, it's awesome to see more people want to come and be part of it because it's a great family, and you will be blessed to join this. Would you pray with me?